would you give of yourself to be someone else's hero? On September 9th, 2019, I was on an operating table with fluorescent lights flashing in my eyes. And before the anesthesiologist could put me to sleep, the surgeon asked me one last time, "Are you sure you want to do this?" In that moment, I thought back to Alex. I met Alex for the first time 6 years before that day. He was the new kid at the restaurant I bartended at. He was a 20-year-old punk who somehow knew everything about how to make a drink and always had something to say about how I made mine, whether it was how I peeled my orange garnish or my technique in opening a bottle of wine. To him, it was always wrong. It wasn't. But over the years, we began to tolerate one another. And I'd even go as far to say we became friends. One night at the restaurant, I came in for my shift, and I realized that we were hosting a fundraiser with the National Kidney Foundation for one of our employees. When I looked at the flyer, I realized that it was for Alex, and that he had a rare autoimmune disease called dense deposit disease. Dense deposit disease keeps your kidneys from being able to filter waste from the blood. It's incredibly rare in that it only affects 3 people per million, and ultimately it results in renal failure, which will require the patient to go on the kidney transplant waiting list within 10 years of diagnosis. Alex was put on the waiting list in 2015. When I found out, I briefly considered donating, but it was my understanding that his blood type was O positive. I was AB. I wasn't a match. And if I'm being honest, I was relieved. I couldn't imagine donating one of my organs to another person, and it only lasts for 10 years. What if one of my family members needed it? What if I needed it? This is a complex surgery. What if something were to go wrong? What are the long-term implications of a surgery like this? No. Fast forward a few years to my 30th birthday. I didn't work at the restaurant anymore, so I had a big party with everyone. I wanted to see everyone again. Alex came, and when I saw him, my heart dropped. Our friend group had a harsh reality check that night when we realized that Alex's disease had become visually apparent and that he wasn't doing so good. We also learned that night that he was going to dialysis 3 days a week. Now, if you're lucky enough to not know what dialysis does to your system, let me tell you what it did to Alex. He would go to dialysis first thing in the morning, and as he sat there waiting for the machine to do what his kidneys no longer could, he sat there for hours while his body depleted. By the end of dialysis, he had no energy, just enough to get home and go to sleep. The urgency of Alex's kidney transplant was evident that night. After that, we rallied around Alex and we did everything we possibly could to find him a kidney, whether it was posting about it on social media or spreading the word at the restaurant with the regulars. And every time we talked about it, the question would always come up. If you were a perfect match and you knew that you could save someone else's life by donating your kidney, but you knew it was only good for 10 years, would you still do it? It can be a tough question. One that each time I asked that question to myself, the answer became softer and softer. Who am I to determine the value of years on someone else's life? When I think on the last 10 years of my own life, they're some of the most substantial, influential, and meaningful years I have lived up to date. I met and married my now husband. We adopted 3 adorable fur babies who put a smile on our face every single day. I graduated college on my own dime. My career has skyrocketed. We bought our dream house in the Rocky Mountains. And that doesn't even touch on all of the beautiful relationships I have cultivated in that time. The last 10 years have also been really, really challenging. I was so broke, I didn't know how I was going to feed myself for the next meal, or how I was going to put a roof over my head for that month. I've lost family and friends to diseases, accidents, conditions, and even COVID-19. But all of those moments combined are what create beautiful meaning that make up life. A few months after that 30th birthday party, I was sitting at my new job, listening to one of my favorite podcasts called Hidden Brain, which is aired on NPR. And in this particular episode that I was listening to, featured a man named Al Roth. And that day I learned that the Nobel Prize winner came up with a pretty incredible concept that changes the face of how living organ donation is done, called the paired exchange program. If I'm a willing donor, but my intended recipient is not a match, the paired exchange program matches me and the intended donor with another donor and another recipient who are in the same situation as us. I donate my kidney to the matched recipient, and the matched donor donates their kidney to my intended recipient, resulting in two kidney donations that wouldn't have happened otherwise. When I heard about this, I got so excited. I stopped work and I immediately texted Alex. I asked him if he was aware of the program, and he replied with yes. But how can I ask somebody else to do something like that for me when my situation is so unique? By that time, my heart had become so soft to Alex's situation that in that exact moment, I decided to apply for the program. I let him know that I was interested and that I would fill out the application when I got home. Once I got home and started on the application, it obviously asked what my blood type was. I couldn't remember if it was AB positive or AB negative, so I ran up to our home office where my medical records were. And as I was sifting through the medical records, my husband, who was working at the desk in our home office, asked me, "What am I doing?" I briefly filled him in on a few minor details that I was maybe intending on donating my kidney. But after I gave him a few more details, his excitement quickly matched mine when he realized that we may have found a solution for Alex. I was looking through the medical folder, and as I was sifting through the pages, a card fell at my feet. My husband drew my attention to the card, and when I picked it up and turned it over, I realized what the card had said. O positive. I was a perfect blood match for Alex. And I had held on to that bad assumption that I made however many months prior to that as an easy excuse to not have to ask myself the question, could you donate a kidney to a friend in need? Up to that moment, I challenged my thinking. I challenged my understanding on what it took to donate my kidney by asking as many questions as I could and seeking out real answers to those questions. When I did that, I found out that there are almost 100,000 people on the waiting list right now. I learned that the average number of living donors here in the US on an annual basis is 6,500 people. I learned that if I donate my kidney and I find out later on in life that I need a kidney, when I go on the list, I go straight to the top. I learned that the diet implications on a long-term effect are not that much different from what I'm already doing. All of this knowledge got me to this moment. We looked at the card, realized what it said, and if I'm being honest, I'm grateful for the mix-up, because it gave my heart and it gave my mind the time it needed and to do the actual work to get to a place to confidently say yes to kidney donation. Once we saw the card, realized what it said, we both took a deep breath, smiled, and for the first time I said out loud, I'm donating my kidney. The weeks that ensued after that included several urine samples, infinite blood tests, x-rays, and a CT scan to determine if I was a match for Alex. Spoiler alert, I was a perfect match. The morning of the surgery was still and quiet. And as we were sitting in the waiting room, waiting for the surgeries, we couldn't help but to reflect on everything it took for us to get to that moment. Because I was able to lean in to my fears, I was then able to do something great on this earth by donating my kidney to a friend in need. Now, I'm not saying everyone here needs to go donate a kidney. But what are the fears in your own life keeping you from being great on this earth? What are the questions you need to seek actual answers for so that you can be the hero in someone else's life? Before they wheeled me back, Alex's late mother sat next to me on the bed and gave me what I now consider one of the best hugs I've ever received. And in mid-squeeze, she simply said, "Thank you. Thank you for taking a chance on my son and giving him a second chance at life." They wheeled me back before the anesthesiologist could put me to sleep. The surgeon asked me one last time, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I replied confidently, "Yes."